an addendum to a complaint to the Supreme Tribunal, and a defense. In his name be he glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. Peace be upon you, and God's mercy and blessings. My dear loyal brothers, you may send a petition to the justice-loving Democrats saying that I am ill and that they should do whatever they think is best. Our lawyer told us in the letter we received from him the day before yesterday that they are trying to differentiate between the books that contain indictable material and those that do not. They are making a pretext of one word out of thousands in one treatise and showing it to be an offense. Their malicious intention is to prevent the spread of the Risale-i Nur by not returning that treatise in a way that conforms with no law, just as they have always done up to the present. Also, although what they show to be an indictable offense in their decision, which has anyway been quashed by the Court of Appeal, is not against us, and although we have proved decisively the malice, and with a table of true and false, the 80 errors in the public prosecutor's indictments, with the same antipathy they have made allegations against the 400-page Zulfikar collection due to a few lines about Islamic dress and inheritance that were written 30 to 40 years ago and only mention what is written in 100,000 Quranic commentaries. What law in the world would permit them to seize that Vedic collection and not return it to us? Also, with the exception of 2 short pieces about repetition in the Qur'an and the angels, both Denizli Court and Ankara Criminal Court gave the decision to acquit and return to us all the works held for 2 years by Afyon courts, since they could find nothing reprehensible in them. Then, although the Sparta authorities at one time confiscated all the works, they returned all of them to their owners. Then, they seized the staff of Moses and Zulfikar on the pretext that they were being published in the old script without permission and held them for 4 years. But then, because they could find nothing indictable in them, returned all the 170 volumes to us without any loss. And although the religious publications and official newspapers now express the same objections 100 times more violently that we did in the name of right, towards some of the leaders of the former party, they showed this to be our most serious crime. Thus, while the truth of the matter is this, Afyon Court stated at the end of its decision, which was also printed in the old letters, not in the name of justice, but out of bigoted love of that person who is dead and gone, in order to convict us, and due mostly to the persecutor's malice, that Said and his friends call Mustafa Kemal anti-religious and an antichrist, and they try to destroy the people's love for him. That's why we are convicting them. Surely, even if such objections towards a dead person were 1,000 times greater, it would only constitute a personal case. There is something strange in this, and there must be some other matter in it, so that a court of justice has made such a ruling. Now that all the parts of the Risale-i Nur, which those people hold have been acquitted 4 times, and the present Minister of Justice has decided, on the question of the Afyon Court decision which convicted us, that the Risale-i Nur contains nothing constituting an offense, and that it has been acquitted 3 times, now, in this era of the Democrat government, from which the whole nation awaits justice, compassion, and religion, if, due to the cunning schemes of the former tyrants, the Risale-i Nur is left to the arbitrary devices of the ill-intentioned, it will be serious treachery against the Democrat government and will dash the nation's hopes of consolation. My deputy in Ankara, Mustafa Sungur, gave the good news in the telegraph he sent on 17 November 1950 that the decision had been taken to return all the parts of the Risale-i Nur to us, and that the Justice Minister had endorsed the 3 acquittals. According to Sungur's subsequent letter, orders had been given for their return. Despite this, and despite his saying that he would verify this by telephone, Afyon court is meaninglessly collecting all the files of both Eskişehir and Denizli courts, and with the announcement of the amnesty and the court's acquittals, it is mixing up those blessed works with those files and 16 years of slanders and denunciations in order to refute them and throw them into their depository. The affairs of the Risale-i Nur should not be left to those persons who have deceived us for the past 3 years. We wish to draw this most important matter to the attention of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Justice. Said Nursi. Footnote: an extraordinary incident which is one of many examples opposed to justice and religion. We many times requested the return of our Qur'an, which they had confiscated 3 years ago, and which shows the visible miracle of the 2,800 instances of the name of Allah written in gold, but they failed to do so, and they did not give it to us. Now, the lawyer says that we should send a petition to the head of the Directorate of Religious Affairs requesting its return. There are hundreds of such examples showing that plots are hatched against us due solely to malice and foreign intrigue. The Democrats, who so please us and the Islamic world, should be prudent, and they should save the Risale-i Nur and us from these torments. In the name of the Nur students, Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies with praise. My dear loyal brothers, Ceylan, my Abdurrahman and young Hüsrev has performed his duties in 2 or 3 places perfectly and has returned. Now I am sending him to Ankara as my deputy like Sungur to carry out a more important task. Secondly, I have sent you the letters from certain persons for your information. Thirdly, let me know how much I owe you for the copies of the words collection and of the biography in the new letters and Jevshen in the old letters, which are from Inebolu and are going to be sent to me. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, your brother, Said Nursi. My dear loyal brother, Osman Nuri, since, owing to your sacred intention and sincerity, Almighty God has gathered the leading young Sayyids around you in Ankara, and since you consider it necessary for me to be in Ankara, I am now sending in my place to that small Nur school the copies of the Risale-i Nur I have collected, having paid for them out of my own income. They will be neighbors to you to the number of Sayyids, and by reason of their loyal services up to now, which far surpass those of devoted sons, such hard-working young Sayyids as Sungur, Ceylan, Salih, Abdullah, Ahmed, and Ziya, each of whom is the equivalent of 10 to 15 Abdurrahmans, are my deputies with you and your students, and I leave it to you to supervise that small Nur school in my place as a place of learning. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, your brother, Said Nursi. My dear, loyal, and blessed brothers, firstly, the possibility occurred to me that with the telegraph signed by Hüsrev and given to the president, the young Hüsrevs in Ankara might have the Qur'an written by Hüsrev printed photographically. You tried to learn from the Sparta post office what sort of telegraph it was and let me know. I am curious. Secondly, the slight criticisms of us made by a number of Sufis and described in our brother Rifat's letter, who is in Konya, hold no importance. You should not be upset and should not respond in any way. I look on the criticisms of the believers and especially of the followers of the Sufi way, and particularly of my person, as advice of a sort and a favor. I forgive them. In the face of the awesome harms caused us by the misguided, I consider the insignificant criticisms of my person by believers to be warnings of a sort, urging us in a friendly manner to be cautious. Thirdly, Incited by coward dissemblers, the weekly papers in Afyon recently presented us as being connected with something we have nothing to do with. The Nurjus here denied it. It is nothing to worry about. We congratulate with our whole life and spirit the wondrous, effective services with the Risale-i Nur of the Madrasatul Zahra's leading students, which offer many benefits for the Islamic world. I send many greetings to all my brothers and sisters and pray for them and request their prayers. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, your brother, Said Nursi. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, Ali and Haji Süleyman from the auspicious village Kulevni, and Abdurrahman and Himmet from the vicinity of Dinar, and a leading Nurji from my home region all came to visit me. I offer thanks to Almighty God that their fervent attachment to the Risale-i Nur in Kulevni persists as ever. It was a wonder of their loyalty and sincerity that at the very time I had been obliged to send 10 of my own collections to Ankara, and from other distant places further books had been requested of me, those auspicious brothers brought me as a gift from the Madrasatul Zahra exactly the amount of the books I had sent. I found among them the entire letters and additional letters written out in his own handwriting by Büyük Mustafa, who is the leading Abdurrahman. May Almighty God bestow on all of them instances of mercy to the number of those books' letters. Amin. Secondly, the day before yesterday, Mustafa, one of the young heroes of the Risale-i Nur, came to visit me. He assisted Hüsrev for 11 months in prison, working quite selflessly for his comfort. He told me that he intended to go and visit him. I replied that it was both Hüsrev's right and his own right that he should visit him, but that 4 students who had come here had gone to Sparta, so there was no longer any need. I told him that since he acted on account of the Risale-i Nur as imam in a large village, that was more useful for the Risale-i Nur than either my personal service or visiting Hüsrev at present. If such services for the Risale-i Nur had not been performed in his village, there would have been need for someone as sincere and devoted as himself. So his visit was postponed for now. Thirdly, Haji Sabri of Konya came to visit me. We were holding a conversation and Sadık, Hayri, and Mustafa were present. It was an important lesson for him. The work for the cause of belief performed for this country and nation and the Islamic world by the leading students of the Madrasatul Zahra, and particularly by Hüsrev, and they forming a barrier against the stratagems of the destructive atheists, are acts so tremendously good they would cause even to suppose the impossible 1,000 evils to be forgiven. In which case, nothing those leading students and foremost Hüsrev thus should be criticized, and everyone should cooperate with them as true brothers with genuine, heartfelt sincerity. The lesson had this meaning: God willing, Haji Sabri and Hoca Sabri and Rüştü and those like them will be as firmly attached to Hüsrev as brothers, and differences in temperament will no longer affect them. Your ill brother, Said Nursi. My dear loyal brothers and leading students of the Madrasatul Zahra and publishers of the Risale-i Nur, firstly, I considered the following matter to be appropriate. It occurred to me that as the leading members of the Madrasatul Zahra are the main people who have a say concerning the Risale-i Nur, I should refer it to them for their approval. It is like this. Recently, because 3 of our friends who serve me wanted to receive instruction from me temporarily for a few days, and because I felt a desire to revive a valuable lesson I had taught my students formerly, I was teaching from one page of the printed Lemeat every day. Both I and they met it with astonishment and appreciation. I had the idea that the reason no copies of the treatise remained, as with the other old printed treatises, was that enemies who understood their value prevented their publication, while friends did not want to part with their copies owing to their worth. And we saw that lema'at comprised in the form of fine aphorisms a number of essential seeds of the Risale-i Nur, and in brief maxims encapsulated an extensive social truth in a style so clear and plain that no literary figure or thinker had previously achieved it. It was written in semi-verse and read as easily as prose, and 37 years ago had been composed in 20 days in Ramadan by working for only 1 or 2 hours a day. It was as long as a book and was written as a sort of Mesnevi. We marked in the copy we obtained the points were in 20 places. It had made predictions which 30 to 40 years later turned out to be true. It gave us the idea that the work was foretelling the Risale-i Nur and was a sort of index of it and seedbed. Secondly, I am leaving to the discretion of the Nur hero, Husrev, and the other leading students of the Madrasat Zahra whether or not to include lema'at at the end of the words as the 33rd word. I send my greetings to all my brothers and sisters and pray for them and request their prayers. Footnote: if you accept it, the copy of lema'at I have will be sent to you later. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, Said Nursi. My dear, loyal, faithful, sincere, and genuine brothers and sisters, we congratulate you with our whole life and spirit on the festival, and on the festival of those who this year were free to make the Hajj, and on this nation beginning to enjoy, with the despotism in this country being lifted, the freedom prescribed by the Sharia. We congratulate you too on the nation's spiritual festival and on the festival enjoyed by the Islamic world with its shared awakening, and on the Risale-i Nur answering with the truth of the Qur'an the need humanity feels for the Qur'an's lights. The enduring one, he is the enduring one. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, I have sent to Sayyid Salih 10 of my own collections from the Risale-i Nur, which he had asked you for the Muslim brothers who are very prominent in Aleppo and the region. He should give them to them. Secondly, I am closely concerned with Denizli and with our Nur brothers there. Just when I was wondering how the late Hasan Feyzi's friends were, and how and where our old brother Yaqub Cemal was, I was greatly pleased to receive Yaqub Cemal's festival congratulations sent in the name of the Denizli Nurjus. It took me longing and yearning on a trip around Denizli, and I exclaimed, MashaAllah, Barakallah. Thirdly, some of the wretches who tormented the Nurjus for 20 years and thrust them into prison are now suffering every day the distress that they inflicted on us in a month. We endured it in patience, referring those tyrants to hell. However, the sacredness of the service of belief demanded from divine justice a sort of hell for those wretches in this world, for we have seen that for some of them it reduces to nothing the pleasure they received in a year from their absolute despotism. Time has shown this. This means that divine justice and providence suffice us. Fourthly, I send my condolences to both the relatives of Ali Osman on his death and to the Madrasat Zahra and the Nur Circle, and I congratulate him, for he carried out his duty to the letter and now is included in my prayers together with the Nur heroes Hafiz Ali and Hafiz Mustafa. I send my greetings to all my brothers. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, Said Nursi. Good news for elderly women and an admonishment for young girls who do not want to marry. For the time being, this is addressed only to the leading students of the Madrasat Zahra. The hadith which says, practice religion as elderly women do, shows that since at the end of time it will be elderly women who have powerful belief, religiously minded people should imitate their piety. Furthermore, compassion is one of the Risale-i Nur's 4 fundamental principles, and women are champions of compassion, due to which even the most timorous of them is ready to sacrifice her very spirit for her child. At the present time, those worthy mothers and sisters are faced with a difficult situation. I felt a presentiment in my spirit that I had to explain to those nurse students who want to remain single or who have to, a natural fact which is confidential and should not be disclosed. So I have to say this. My sisters and daughters, times have changed and things are not as they used to be. For nearly half a century now, in our society, secular education and upbringing have replaced Islamic education. So, while a man should take a wife to be his companion in the next life, as well as to bring him happiness in this world, and to keep him from sinning, he loves the wretched woman only in her youth, keeping her under perpetual pressure. He piles difficulties on her perhaps 10 times greater than the ease of life he gives her. And if they are not compatible, called by the Sharia kufu, well matched, she passes her life in misery since the rulings of the Sharia were ignored. Then, if there is jealousy between them as well, the situation is even worse. There are 3 factors driving people to make such a marriage. The first, divine wisdom bestows a natural urge and longing to perform that natural duty for reproduction. But where the man receives 10 minutes pleasure from satisfying that desire, and if licit may suffer difficulties for an hour, the woman suffers the difficulty of carrying the child in her body for 9 months and then tending it for 10 years after that. This means that because that natural desire and urge of 10 minutes results in such long-lasting hardship, it ceases to hold any importance. The emotions and instinctual soul should not drive a person to marry because of it. The second, since by nature women are weak, they need someone to support them. So, just to secure this need, it is far easier for them to work and earn their own livelihoods like village women rather than damaging their worship and spoiling their conduct, through which are one life both in this world and the next, by hypocritically trying to win the affections of a husband who has had no Islamic upbringing and is undisciplined and accustomed to dominance. Just as the tree provider provides infants with milk, so that generous Creator will provide their sustenance. It does not befit students of the Risale-i Nur to seek out an immoral husband who does not perform the obligatory prayers and hypocritically cultivate his affections and enter under his domination. The third, women have an innate desire to love and pet children, and the hope of having a child who will help them in this life and be an intercessor in the next, and after they have died will assist them with his good works, strengthens that natural tendency and encourages them to marry. But nowadays, since secular education has replaced Islamic training, only 1 or 2 out of 10 children are devoted to their mothers in return for their kindness and love and help them and have merits written in the records of their mothers' good deeds through their pious prayers and own good works, and having been upright are intercessors for them in the hereafter. So, since 8 out of 10 are not thus, the unfortunate weak women should not take upon themselves such difficult lives unless they are forced to, just because of that innate desire and natural urge. So, I say to young nurse students who do not want to marry because of this fact that I have pointed out, if they do not find young men who are completely suitable and religious and upright, they should not try to sell themselves by lowering their standards. If there are no suitable young men, they should remain single like some of the self-sacrificing male nurse students until a suitor of conscience appears who has received an Islamic upbringing and is suitable for them and will be a companion for all eternity. They should not put everlasting happiness into jeopardy for some fleeting worldly pleasure, nor should they throw themselves into the evils of civilization. Footnote: my sisters and the young girls should read the treatise on Islamic dress for women. Said Nursi. A pleasant memory from prison. While we were in prison, there would sometimes be talk of an amnesty put about by the former cruel despots in order to deceive, and the miserable prisoners would ask me if this would happen. I would tell them that they were only saying it to hoodwink them. However, the nurse students had been sent to prison 3 times for the purpose of consoling the prisoners and getting 90% of them to perform the prayers. I therefore hoped from divine mercy with powerful hope that it was a sign that a full amnesty would be granted to the prisons, and I gave good news of this. On many occasions I consoled many men with this. Endless thanks be to Almighty God that the heroic democrats confirmed my hopes and predictions and were the means of saving many innocent prisoners from torments, for they were being crushed on the pretext of arbitrary, biased laws and certain hostile officials' partisanship. They also made the bold sections of the nation supporters of themselves and of public order. It led also to numerous prisoners completely reforming by reason of their attachment to the Risale-i Nur and the Nurjus, and their becoming useful rather than harmful members of the nation and country. Said Nursi. In His name be He glorified. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings forever and ever. Our most beloved and esteemed Master, we have sent the completely true peace, the Risale-i Nur cannot be destroyed, to the home addresses of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Justice, and to the official addresses of the other ministers. We are giving it to the deputies we meet, and they all say they will do what they can for the matter. The deputy for Sparta, Tahsin Tola from Senirkent, is closely concerned, and he said this: the government has begun to fight communism, but the police are not sufficient for this. The Nurjus have been struggling against it for 20 years and are of great assistance to the government. They say that the Nurjus are the best and the most effective of the various movements today in the country. The preacher and deputy Ömer Bilen and the elderly deputies Hasan Fehmi Ustaoğlu and Fehmi Çobanoğlu send you many respects and greetings. Both say that in the name of the Risale-i Nur's collective personality, our beloved Master is the true guide of the present age, and that it was due to his influence that this unexpected victory was won. These 2 esteemed deputies say that they have received assistance in many respects from you, our beloved Master, and that relying on the Risale-i Nur's service, they look with great hope to the future, and that they await from divine mercy that Islam will shine in all its glory in the world of humanity. Yesterday, Wednesday, the 3 deputies said they would visit our Master on the 1st of December. Abdullah Sungur. My dear loyal brothers, firstly, I congratulate you with my whole life and spirit on the past birthday of the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace. Secondly, the world of Islam will congratulate and applaud your success in publishing the Risale-i Nur. The signs are now appearing. For instance, Pakistan's Deputy Education Minister came to visit me and took some parts of the Risale-i Nur. He said that he would try to disseminate them among the 90 million Muslims there. He took them and went. Moreover, despite so many dissemblers working against us, the Risale-i Nur has been taken to far-off places in both Europe and Asia. Also, when the Germans in Berlin got hold of Zulfikar, they announced their praises of it in the newspapers. Also, the believers at home are reading the Staff of Moses, and Zulfikar enthusiastically, attaching no importance to the prohibitions placed on them by the former Prime Minister and Interior Minister, who were the most opposed to them. Most of the readers are in Ankara. Also, prison directors in several places in 2 or 3 provinces have decided to make their prisons into Nur schools so that their prisoners may reform through the Risale-i Nur, as they did in the prisons of Denizli and Afyon. Thirdly, the late Burhan was an unlettered, secret hero of the Risale-i Nur. I offer my condolences to both his relatives and Sparta and the students of the Madrasatu Zehra. I received the news 5 or 6 days ago, and during those 5 or 6 days, I have prayed for him perhaps 1,000 times. For while reciting my invocations during those 6 days, I have intended him the nearly 400 times I have pronounced, "Save us from hellfire." I make over to Burhan all that I have read and recited. Fourthly, the Risale-i Nur has begun to fill the secular schools with light. Their pupils are attaching themselves to it to a greater extent than the madrasa, religious school, scholars, becoming students of it and spreading it. God willing, the inmates of the religious schools will slowly recognize the Risale-i Nur's worth, for in reality it belongs to them and is the product of their schools. Even now, many muftis and religious scholars appear to be enthusiastic about it and are requesting it. The most important frequenters of the Sufi convents are the followers of the Sufi way, Ehli Tariqat. It is absolutely essential that they illuminate the Risale-i Nur with all their strength and that they look on it as their own. Footnote: a significant example is all the disciples of Seyyid-i Şehirli Hacı Abdullah in both Kastamonu and Sparta and Eskişehir, considering the Risale-i Nur circle to be their own tariqat circles. For those of them who come across the Risale-i Nur, become attached to it appreciatively. May God grant them His blessings. Up to now, I have taught only of the reality of belief and have said that the present is not the time of the Sufi tariqat. Innovations do not permit it. But now it is necessary and essential that all the followers of the tariqats who are within the bonds of the prophets, upon whom the blessings and peace sunnah, should regard the circle of the Risale-i Nur, which is the summary of all the 12 major tariqats and is their largest circle, as their own tariqat circle, and enter it. The present time has shown this. Also, even the most sinful followers of the tariqats cannot embrace unbelief easily. Their hearts are not defeated by it. Therefore, they are not completely shaken and may become true nurjus. However, as far as is possible, they should not embrace innovations or commit any serious sins that destroy the fear of God. Fifthly, there is no one sole solution in the face of atheism, irreligion, and anarchy, the gravest dangers at the present time, and that is to embrace the truths of the Qur'an. For the human calamity that in a short time transformed West China into a communist state cannot be silenced with political, physical forces. The only thing that can silence it are the truths of the Qur'an. The effects of the matter explained in the Night of Power in a Guide for Youth are now to be seen in both America and Europe. For this reason, the true strength of our present government is to be found in relying on the truths of the Qur'an and serving them. By doing this, through Islamic Brotherhood, it will gain a reserve force of 350 million brethren within the bonds of Islamic unity. Formerly, the Christian states did not support Islamic unity, but now, because communism and anarchy have arisen, both America and the European states are compelled to support it and the Quran. Sixthly, a deputy who is a Nur student came to visit me. He told me that he had visited the Minister of Justice and told them about the decision to confiscate the Risale-i Nur. Özyörük, the Justice Minister, said that he had given orders to Afyon Court to return it in its entirety and that he was going to return the copy of the Staff of Moses he had to its author. Halil Özyörük saying this shows his support for the Democrats and for the Risale-i Nur. I send many greetings to everyone. The enduring one, he is the enduring one, your brother, Said Nursi.